Religious Sisters, Catholic Schools, and the Supreme Court, Monday Musings. Since this is a video that involves the Supreme Court, I figured I would at least put a disclaimer out there that I'm not a lawyer, so this is obviously not my area of expertise. And because it involves the Supreme Court, I figured I would also, since we have to talk about some political figures, I'm not endorsing any one candidate over the other. Recently, the Supreme Court issued two rulings that basically favored the Catholic Church in upholding Catholic moral teachings in employment decisions. And the first ruling came with the Little Sisters of the Poor, who are a group of religious sisters who basically care for the poor and the elderly. And when the Affordable Care Act was first signed into law by President Obama, one of the things that it mandated was employers had to cover contraceptives within their insurance plan. And since that time, the Little Sisters of the Poor have been fighting this legal battle for over 7 years, trying to get an exemption for not having to provide contraceptive and also abortifications in their insurance plans. Important to note that there wasn't even one employee who was objecting to this, and yet the sisters still had to continually fight this in court. President Trump, not long ago, after this long legal battle, gave the Little Sisters of the Poor an exemption from having to provide contraceptives and also abortifications, I didn't say that right, in their insurance plans. And when that happened, there were a couple states that, and ours is New Jersey, the state of New Jersey was one of those states that also did that, that basically sued that exemption clause. So that case went to the Supreme Court, and it did rule by 7-2, which is a huge majority for the Supreme Court, ruled in favor of the Little Sisters of the Poor that they do not have to provide contraceptives and abortifications in their insurance policies. So this certainly was a big legal win for the Little Sisters of the Poor, who have been fighting this battle for some time. It's also important to note, again, not endorsing candidates, the candidate Joe Biden, who is seeking office for the presidency, has already said that he would seek to overturn this decision of the Supreme Court and do whatever he could to make sure that contraceptives and abortifications had to be covered in insurance plans. The second case involved Catholic schools, and this was also a big important Supreme Court decision, and it basically said that those who teach in Catholic schools are ministers, quote-unquote ministers, and so the Catholic Church has a basically right to obligate them to witness to the faith both in their word and actions. And so if there's something that conflicts with Catholic moral teachings, then the church does have the ability to fire employees over that. So these were obviously important Supreme Court decisions, and it all goes back to Hobby Lobby case, if you remember that. They were basically an organization that claimed that institutions, corporations, can have a conscience, so they can choose to mandate what they do, what they don't cover in insurance plans and also in their hiring and firing practices. And so that was a big case, and since that time, many legal battles have been fought over that. And so it's always important for us that, and again, if a corporation is going to say you can't have a conscience, well, obviously we wouldn't stand on that based on Catholic social principles. We also wouldn't stand on that in a secular sense, because corporations obviously would want to have clauses that wouldn't allow, employees to be racist or to do something else that, conflicted with their corporation ethics. So those are just some Monday musings. These were important Supreme Court decisions that affected religious liberty. None of these cases, because of how our legal systems work these days, none of these cases are probably settled and, can't continue to be fought in one way or another. So we continue to pray for Little Sisters of the Poor. We also pray for Catholic schools, and we're always aware that, it's important for the Church to always uphold its Catholic moral social teachings and all principles in its institutions. So just some Monday musings on the Supreme Court and how it affects the Catholic Church recently. See you soon, St. Catherine's.